Okay, before I start, I want to ask you this exact question. Are computers changing your brain? What do you think, Adam?
I think so. I I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at it. I think it's changing the brain in terms of how we do decision making, at least for me, because I don't know if this is what other people are doing, but I think just in terms of like decision making and coding, I think coding kind of put in our heads like if, then, else, and stuff like that. And I think in some of my decision making, I kind of am logically going through it like that, and that kind of how a computer would go through it. So at least for me, I'm not sure if that's how normally people are doing it, but I think that's one way. And I just to think of how we respond to information. There's a lot of ways to look at it with like social media, um, like trusting media sources and the internet. Like you would probably trust someone if you talk to someone in person. Like, oh, I know someone that said this, and you would trust that. But now we question it. We question things that we see on the internet more. So I think there's a lot of ways that social media and just the internet and computers change our brain.
That's very interesting. I was this weekend, we had a very exciting set of emails from the faculty. There is this faculty.rutgers.edu, whatever it's called. And this guy, one of the faculty, started a political discussion. And something Republican. Hey guys, close your microphones because they get echo here. Oh, great. And was a major turmoil. People coming back with all these discussions. And one of our deans, not Lele, said that, well, it's inappropriate. This is a faculty distribution list for academic matters, not for political matters. So that was going on. And in the background, one of my colleagues, good friend of mine, sent this email with two academic papers, quote unquote, proving that the virus was created in the Wuhan virus laboratory. And then I go, ooh, should I believe this or not? And then I start thinking about academic papers. And, I wrote so many in my life. And I said, they are not all true. Actually, many of them are very untrue. And so I think your point that you don't know what to believe is really very well taken. Okay, let me see. Claudia, what do you think?
Sorry, let me unmute. Hi. Hi. I think computers are changing our brains as we don't have to retain much of memory. I think we are currently relying more on evidence or resources or facts that are already available to us. And we don't have to store in our brains things like phone numbers, things that we in the past used to by not having a reference. Also, I think our focus is not it's not centralized. We have the ability to look at different things simultaneously without having to have a single focus. So I think to some extent we are more distracted. That's a couple of things that I thought how computers are changing our brains nowadays.
So we are having a little bit of internet breakdown here. I can hear a lot of people disconnecting.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but I think will be resolved. So what do you think, Chiara? What do you think about how computers affecting your brain, changing your brain?
Well, I think now we definitely have everything at our fingertips, so we don't have to think as hard to get things done. We have access to everything through like databases like Google, Bing, Yahoo, and whatnot. So they're definitely changing the way we think and do our work.
Okay, actually very good because that's what thing I want to discuss. Let's just hear a couple of people. Emmett, what do you think?
I think, like they said, the way we go about getting information is different. 20 years ago, if you wanted to find something, it was oftentimes hard, but now you can just click on Google, search something up, and you'll find 20 different facts about it. So, like Claudia mentioned, it's kind of like the computers are external hard drive. We don't really need to remember things as much. Now we can, look things up much quicker. We don't have to comprehend things in as much detail right on the fly.
Okay, so I think this is a good background. Let's move ahead here. And I'm going to have a couple of VVox questions for you to basically start thinking about what I want you to think as I was doing. Abby, do you have a number for us? Did we lose Abby? Abby?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, the number is in the chat. And your phone could save the number from the last session.
Can you just say it because I don't have it?
Yeah, it's 131-006-849.
131-006-849.
Yes.
Okay, so what do you guys think? Does your brain have infinite storage capability?
We got 14 responses.
And what are they?
46% chose A, 38% chose B, and 15% chose C. And more people are choosing A now.
Yeah, actually, I think that's the myth of the traditional that people have infinite storage capability. Also, I heard many, many times the expression, you only use 10% of your capacity of your brain. Yeah, I'm sure many of you heard that. That's absolutely not true. And I think recent research has shown that, with age, size of your brain shrinks and the brain adapts to that and reduces storage capacity, basically, in order to protect its processing ability. Okay, but we'll continue talking about that. Let me go to the next. So that was what I said about the 10% brain capacity. I want to see what you think about it. So Abby, what did I convince everyone of no, or that some people stubbornly sticking to yes?
Most people chose B, no.
Okay, so I convinced everyone on that one. Maybe I shouldn't have said what I said. Okay, third one. Neurons do not regenerate.
I assume you mean yes.
Yes, it's a double negative we are doing there, correct? Sorry about that. Yeah, that's the kind of myth that there was. So what's the numbers there, Abby?
Most people chose B, no.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There is plenty of evidence that cells in your brain recover. And there was a lot of the literature in the past said no, but I don't think there is any doubts this day that they do. Okay, now a little bit of introspection here. 3 questions. Can you remember, and this is not a poll, can you remember phone numbers the way you did before? Has your attention span changed? Are you better at multitasking? So what do you think, Shuli? Do you remember numbers the way you used to?
I think so. Because when I see the questionnaire phone number, there were 4 phone numbers pop up in my brain. So I guess I have the same type of capacity as before.
How about you? Let's see who here. Let me ask one more person. Nick, what do you think?
I mean, it depends if I have to know their number. Like, I think before, yeah, it's not as important, so no. But like my family's numbers, like I remember, like, you know, I think I, you know, committed those to memory. But like, it depends how important they are. But similarly, the same way.
How about you, Stanley?
I don't think I remembered like they used to. Like, you had to remember people's numbers. I think I can spot patterns, so you're familiar with numbers, but I wouldn't be able to repeat the numbers, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I can share my. I used to remember a lot of phone numbers. Now I remember mine, and that's about it. I just don't need. So I think I changed. Nelly, about your attention?
I think it's because the way, like, normally we used to dial the numbers. Like, there was no way for us not to remember them because we used to dial the numbers, like punch them out. Now you go and say, call somebody, call mom, call sister, like that. So you don't even need to know their numbers. It's amazing. One friend got robbed his cell phone. And when somebody lent him a phone to ask for help, he couldn't remember any numbers to whom to call, you know, an immediate person. So I used to know 48 phone numbers because of my on my grammar school. And in my head, I still remember 5 of them from grammar school friends. But the new numbers, no.
Okay, now going to the second question. Has your attention span changed?
I can answer.
Okay.
I think depending on your age, because I was born in the 90s, in the late 90s. So I kind of grew up with everything that we kind of have. I guess it transformed, but in the way that we kind of get things on demand, I feel like I kind of grew up in that environment. So I don't really know how I would be if I didn't have it. So I think my attention span is just I guess, the environment I always lived in.
But has it you have narrow extension span or wider attention span now?
Well, that's what I mean. I think it's tough to say. I think I have a relatively wide attention span when I'm focused on something, when I'm like interested in something, but I really don't know, because I think that this environment of tech has always been around, as I've been alive and been aware, probably after 5 years old.
Okay. How about you, Michael? How do you feel about your attention span?
So personally, my attention span it's pretty it's gotten pretty short through the years, ever since I got an iPhone, to be totally honest. Like, I'm addicted to Twitter, for example. That's where I get all my news and information. So every 5 minutes, I'll check my Twitter feed, or I'll get a text or a Snapchat from somebody, and I have to answer them right away, or else they get offended. So the whole virtual world, it's definitely shortened my attention span for the worst, but it's also made me better at multitasking, for sure. There's kind of like a give and take there.
Okay, good. Linka, how about you?
For attention span, or are we moving on to the
attention span? And you can talk multitasking because it's related.
I feel like my attention span, like, has gotten lower because of like having my phone, and just we don't have to like remember much, because my phone tells me when class is about to begin, or like when I have everything due, all that too.
Okay. Okay, so let me make a comment here. On the first one, can you remember phone numbers the way you did before? I think most people are there. at the bottom basically don't remember phone numbers. We used to remember tens or hundreds of phone numbers. Now, someone gives you their phone number, you put it on your cell phone, you don't need it anymore. As we said before, call mom, call sister, call Abby, etc. is there. Okay, and meaning I call Abby or text with Abby all the time. I have no idea what her phone number. I don't even know her area code. Okay. The second one, attention span and multitasking, absolutely. Meaning, I always say in my classes, I put pictures of my dog and etc. basically to recover people's attention. Attention spans of my students shrank dramatically. I don't think my classes became more boring. They change in nature, but I don't think they became much, they are very different from last 20 years. Their attention spans, meaning there is people that this is a total addiction. I don't know if it was last year or it was the year before, because I didn't teach this habit talk. I had a student in class, professional accounting, and I asked him to turn off his cell phone. Okay, about 2 minutes later, he was fiddling with his cell phone. I asked him again, and I said, turn it off. 5 minutes later, he was doing that again. I finally asked him to leave the classroom, and he didn't. So then he did, but it was just total addiction. Nice guy. We had good relationship even after that, but it's total addictive, I think. Now, a little bit about the brain. People thought the brain was rigid. You learned something, you kept it in your mind. But actually, the brain is extremely plastic and is a little bit like computer memory. Okay? You basically reallocate things that you do in the brain. There have been plenty of studies looking at the activity on the brain. You know, they can't really go very deep. They don't understand it very well, but they know the regions of the brain that function to do what. And they know that for several reasons. One is that you give a student or a person tasks. You see what basically activates certain region of the brain with probes or with different methods of measuring brain activity. So that's one way. The other way, that was the main way people understood the brain, is when parts of the brain got destroyed by stroke or by accident, or in the Middle Ages, they cut between the both sides of the brain and separated the sides of the brain. It was a punishment, or was it, in some doctors, as a treatment. You started observing what happened. Lost mobility, lost speech, etc., etc. And those studies, looking at particular stroke victims these days, are pretty good at identifying damages that happened in your brain. There is a lot of treatment these days for brain tumors, including destruction of part of the brain, and researchers kind of track what happened with your brain. And so that's what it says here. Brain reprograms itself. It has limited storage capability, and it heals itself has basically two connotations. One, some neurons rebuild, but the other part is the brain moves parts of the brain that are dedicated to do XYZ to another part of the brain that's not damaged. And in a very dramatic damage, that is difficult to happen. But in small strokes or in small physical damage of the brain just reprograms itself and takes care of it. Very interesting, and teaches you a lot about computer technology, to what computers really need to be able to do.